So in the last video, we looked at objections Hobbes considers to the claim that there would be a war of all against all in the state of nature and his replies. And then in this video, we're going to transition from Hobbes's claim that there would be a war of all against all in the state of nature to his conclusion that we should have a government. Now, remember, the state of nature is just by definition a state without government. So if he can show that we should try and get out of the state of nature, that is showing that we should try and have a government. So Hobbes's argument here begins with a notion which he calls the right of nature. The right of nature is the liberty to do whatever you want to do that will preserve your life with no obligation to stop. So here's a quote: "The right of nature is the liberty each man has to use his own power as he will himself for the preservation of his own life, of doing anything which in his own judgment and reason he shall conceive to be the aptest means thereunto." Now, he really means do anything that you think will help you survive. So the idea is, if anything, it doesn't matter what it is, how horrible it seems to you, you have the right to do it if you think it would help you survive. So for example, if I think that, burning a whole bunch of people alive will help me survive just a little bit, then I have the right to do it. If you think burning me alive will help you survive, then you have the right to do it. You have the right to do whatever it is you think will help you survive. That's the right of nature. So let's start with a kind of intuitive motivation for the claim that you would have the right of nature if there were no government, and then we'll look at Hobbes's argument. So here's the intuitive motivation. Here you have somebody who needs dialysis. That's what the D stands for. And the person who needs dialysis thinks the following thought: I'll die within a few days without dialysis, but I don't have any health insurance. So what should I do? Well, this person in need of dialysis finds a hospital and thinks, damn it, I have the right to self-preservation. It doesn't matter if I don't have insurance and I can't pay. I'm going to go in and hook myself up and receive my dialysis. So the person who does this, the idea goes, can't be faulted. You can't say this person has done something wrong, okay? Think about it. How can you tell this person that he doesn't have the right to something that is required for him to survive? It seems he has the right to do whatever will preserve his life, including to steal, to kill, and so on and so forth, with no obligation to stop. And that's the right of nature. Now, that's not Hobbes's argument. That's kind of an intuitive idea to help get you on board. Now comes Hobbes's argument, which is a bit more technical. It's based on his notion of justice. So Hobbes thinks that prior to contracts between people, there isn't any justice or injustice. There isn't any morality at all. So there's no morality, there's no immorality, there's nothing that's morally good or morally bad. There's only what a person can do and what they can't do. And so prior to contracts, there's neither justice nor injustice. Now for Hobbes, a contract isn't just any agreement between two people. So if I say look, I won't hurt you if you don't hurt me, that's not really a contract. It only becomes a contract when someone is empowered to enforce it, when someone is empowered to punish one of us if we deviate. So if you and I make this contract and we empower someone else to imprison or execute whichever one of us deviates, if either of us deviates, then it becomes a real contract. So when Hobbes says there's neither justice nor injustice prior to contracts, he's saying there's neither justice nor injustice prior to enforceable agreements. So recall the person who decided to beat this person really severely. That person wasn't doing anything wrong, according to Hobbes, anything immoral, because talk of immorality in the state of nature makes no sense, because in the state of nature, there are no enforceable contracts. So there are no contracts in the state of nature. There's neither justice nor injustice prior to the state of nature. Therefore, there's neither justice nor injustice in the state of nature. So Hobbes thinks that if there were no government, there would be no morality. Government, specifically the agreements between people that become enforceable when there is a government, are the source of morality. So if you remember the meta-ethical question, what is the ultimate source of morality? Where does morality come from at the end of the day? The answer, according to Hobbes, is it comes from government, specifically from agreements that the government is going to enforce, which are, of course, the laws. So Hobbes thinks that law and morality are the same thing. So we have this conclusion here. 3, there is neither justice nor injustice in the state of nature. Then we have 4, if there's neither justice nor injustice in the state of nature, or in some state or other, then you can't behave unjustly. It's impossible. So if there's no morality, you can't be immoral. And if you can't be immoral, if there is no morality, there's no moral limits on you. And hence you have unlimited rights, which is to say, in the state of nature, where there is no morality, there are no limits on you. You have the right to anything. You have the right to do whatever you want to preserve your life with no obligation to stop, no matter how much it harms others. That's the right of nature. Okay, what exactly does this right grant? Well, I've already said this, but just to be clear, in the state of nature, there is nothing he can make use of, a person can make use of, that may not help him in preserving his life against his enemies. So the idea here is, this is a bit of a convoluted way to put it, but what he's saying is, in the state of nature, any given thing can help you survive. It can help you have advantage over your enemies. Maybe you can use it to fight them off, or at the very least, you can have it, which prevents them from having it, which prevents them from using it for their own survival. And it follows that in the state of nature, everybody has the right to everything, even to another's body. So if I think I can use your body to create weapons from your bones, I have the right to kill you and use your bones for weapons. So here's the argument form. The right of nature grants each person the right to whatever is useful. Anything could be useful, so the right of nature grants each person the right to any given thing. Okay, that's all there is to say about the right of nature. Now let's look at the law of nature. The law of nature, according to Hobbes, is a rule discovered by reason which prohibits you from endangering yourself. So basically, the law of nature says, look, you shouldn't endanger yourself. You shouldn't put yourself at risk. You should try to survive. So here's his argument. He says self-preservation is everyone's fundamental motivation. If that's right, then you shouldn't endanger yourself. Therefore, it follows, right, that you shouldn't endanger yourself. So we get the conclusion that you shouldn't endanger yourself. And this, of course, is a crucial moment in any moral philosophy. Remember, for example, it was clear in Mill's moral philosophy that he moved from the claim that happiness is what we in fact desire to the conclusion that happiness is what's desirable, which is to say it's what we ought to desire, what we should desire. So that's the moment where he connects what is the case, a fact, to a conclusion about what should be the case, a prescription, a description to a prescription. And whenever you're connecting a description to a prescription, it's called the is-ought move in moral philosophy. That's always a key moment. And like Mill, Hobbes tries to do this explicitly. He says, look, since self-preservation is our fundamental motivation, that's a description of us, it follows that you shouldn't endanger yourself. So he's moving from a description to a prescription. Okay? We've gone over this in detail before, but just to remind you of the distinction, when a doctor says you are infected by a virus, that's a description. And when the doctor says you should take 3 pills a day to fix the virus, that's a prescription. It tells you how you should behave, not how you are in fact behaving. Okay, so here's the law of nature. It says you shouldn't endanger yourself. Now, what do we get out of this? Well, we know that the war of all against all is the greatest danger to each of us. So that raises the question, if we should endanger ourselves, what can we do? Well, we should try and get out of this danger. And how can we do that? How can we get out of this danger? We need to seek peace. How can we do that? We'll look at that in the next video.